Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Today is Wednesday, February 2nd, Groundhog Day, as we are getting a snowstorm. So screw you, Groundhog, and your devilish deeds that you do, the witchcraft that Bill Murray was correct for driving you off that cliff.
As long as we don't got to repeat the day over and over and over. Of course, I think we got actually the best news of the year today. So I might want to relive this day again, because we found out today that Jim Harbaugh did not get offered the Minnesota Vikings job, and Jim Harbaugh will come back to Michigan.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to start with tonight, and then we're going to get into the press conferences from this week. We heard at least the coach part of it. I know they talked to a lot of the incoming players today and stuff like that. I haven't gotten an opportunity to listen to any of those yet, so we're just going to deal with the coaches from Monday's press conferences. I mean, tons of great stuff out of those. I mean, I am so impressed with all four of them that, and I know it's very easy to win a press conference. That's always been the joke. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you know that how many head coaches of the Cleveland Browns have won press conferences. So
absolutely.
So it's easy to win press conferences, but I was very impressed from what I heard the other day. And then we'll finish up. Today was the second final signing day for the 2022 class. We're supposed to get 2 commitments today. We got both signed. We had a possible third that was kind of a long shot out there, and he ended up going to Georgia. So with Christian Miller. So kind of, at least we got what we expected. We got both of those guys. So we'll talk about them here in a little bit. But the soap opera, the drama, Jim Harbaugh's world keeps turning and turning and turning. So exactly, pretty much almost exactly 24 hours to the moment that we found out. I mean, it was pretty much last night or a similar time frame from last night. I mean, maybe a little earlier, that we find out that Jim Harbaugh is pretty much gone. He is leaving Michigan. All signs are saying that he is signing with the Minnesota Vikings as the new head coach. It's just a formality. All this stuff, this interview today, he's taking this interview, but it's a done deal. And all the stuff that's leading up to it makes you think, well, it is a done deal. Why would the dude take a interview on signing day? I mean, that's got to send some sort of messages to the program that I'm done. Who tells your assistant coaches who've been on the road for the last how many weeks, recruiting? And this is pretty much the first week back for all coaches into their prospective programs that after being on the road, that, hey, just take the week off, and I don't know what's happening with me. So you guys, get the week off.
Do what's best for you.
Ohio State's having meetings with their new coaching staff and getting prepared and stuff like that. And on top of that, Mike McDonald, or is it Mike McDonald? I don't know.
Mike McDonald.
Yeah, he leaves. I mean, which I figured he was going back to Baltimore after they fired their defense coordinator, but it was kind of like, well, he did his 1 year back to John sent him for 1 year. You got to help my brother at least beat Ohio State once. So, and then he can go right off in the sunset. Like literally every sign was pointing to Jim Harbaugh leaving. That's why I do not think that this was a fluke tonight, that I really think that he thought he was leaving, because I mean, the biggest thing was like, who gives your coaches the week off? And like, yep. Like that was like the sign to me.
And I see people on like Twitter and other places that are like saying that, Michigan just came in at the 13th hour, had the better offer, or 11th hour. And I don't think that was the case at all. I'm not even sure there was a different offer. I don't think Jim was offered anything.
Yeah. And I don't think Minnesota gave him an offer. now that we know that they got a coach, they've offered now a head coach. I would think in the coming days, I think right now we're getting spin from Michigan's side that, Jim Harbaugh, and from Harbaugh's side too, just trying to save face, is that, Michigan wanted him back. He wanted to go back to Michigan. He was really torn, loves the NFL, obviously, but, his alma mater came, screaming in and, saved the day. And that's where he really wanted to be. I really think we're going to find out, some of these NFL beat guys and, the Adam Schefters of the world, maybe not him because he's a Michigan guy, but the Ian Rappaports of the world, some of these guys are going to we're going to start finding out in the next couple of days that there was nothing on the table and it was just wishful thinking out of Jim. And unless his agents really did bluff the crap out of Michigan and scared the crap out of him, that he was pretty much a done deal. And maybe Michigan did come in at the last minute. I don't personally believe that, but
no, I think he realized that he wasn't offered a job today. I mean, if you look back to what Minnesota was looking for, I think that they had put it out there that they were looking for kind of like a young, innovative offensive mind. Jim Harbaugh is none of those things. Jim Harbaugh, yeah, he's an offensive guy in his own right, but he's not an offensive genius by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. And so I don't think it was going the way he wanted it to. I think he realized that it was maybe it was an interview out of respect because they knew he was, a tenured head coach, that he was someone that could possibly be an option. But at the end of the day, he did not fit for what their plans were. He got that vibe and they did not give him an offer. And it wasn't him turning it down because he just had to be at Michigan. He wasn't going to be the coach of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah.
And it's even funnier than if he would have left in the manner which he would have left. Because now, after all this bull crap, he has to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. And I said on Twitter last night, and I still kind of believe it, is that, I don't know how the hell Michigan even brings him back at this point. It's like I would almost say, if he came and called me up today and been like, if I'm the athletic director there, I'd be like, well, I'm coming back. I'd be like, dude,
nope.
have you, there are people in our fan base that are pissed off right now at you. There's
I'm pissed off at you.
I'm mad at you. There's the administration's mad at you. There's kids on our team that are literally just signed a couple months ago and are talking about possibly transferring out. Come on, man. Maybe we should just go in a different direction here.
But he did make it known that he's not going to pursue NFL jobs anymore, which is, consider this has happened every year and he's had mutual interest every year. That's just a crock of crap.
Because every year longer that he's out of NFL, who's going to hire this guy? The NFL teams want younger dudes. That is just an obvious thing. They want a young guy. They want an offensive-minded guy. They want a young offensive-minded guy. They want those three things before anything. And even the defensive guys that they hire, that are getting hired in, these are younger dudes. These aren't guys that are
yeah.
And in today's football, it's just a lot easier to hire the offensive guy as head coach and then hold on. And then it's easier to find a young defensive coordinator that you can keep for multiple years because, if you hire a defensive minded coach and they get a really good young offensive coordinator, there's a good chance in a year or two, if he proves himself, he's going to get a job. So as a head coach, there's a better probability that he's going to get a head coaching job than a smart defensive coordinator, a smart young defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. So it just makes no sense right now, with any of this stuff. But whatever. He's got egg on his face. Only Michigan that in the best year that they have in a decade plus, they win the Big Ten, they get to the playoffs, they beat Ohio State, they get all these little monkeys off their back. They say that they finally have they figured out how to run a true off season that's going to prepare them for the season. All these little things, and it's boop, gone.
Yeah, right, exactly. Of all the guy just totally killed any momentum they had, going into this year. to build from last year. Now, I mean, I'm sorry, like there's a part of it that he has to now rebuild trust because of he pretty much was leaving these guys. And I mean, I don't know, like if you remember the episode from The Office or have you seen it when Michael believes that he's getting a corporate job and he goes in and he thinks it's just a formality because he's the most qualified there. And he goes there and it's not just a formality that, it's an actual interview and he knows that he's not going to get this job, that he bombed the interview. Jan makes a mess of things and is just a total like train wreck that he goes there.
I remember that one.
So he shakes David Wallace's hand and he respectfully, takes his name out of the running, comes back and he's like, I'm back and I came back for you guys. And he was never getting the job. And that's just what we saw today with Jim Harbaugh. But I don't know. If I was Michigan, I would feel like that guy just pretty much like crapped on our relationship that we have with him. And I mean, he's got to build some trust back up. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for him. I mean, we could definitely talk more in future episodes about, those guys moving forward, but I don't know. Something just stuck out at me now that he's done this crap. I don't think there's anything he can do, but you have to name JJ McCarthy the starter right away.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean,
and we'll talk about their talent and depth chart somewhere down the road.
The one thing I just want to throw in there, and doesn't necessarily have to do with him, but it kind of has to do with it now, is that, I mean, his own conference, I mean, some of the rumors that are going around how they're going to change the whole conference championship thing. I mean, the conference in itself is kind of trying to crap on him, but like, well, it would have just been better if we would have just had a Michigan-Ohio State rematch this year. He probably, and the Buckeyes probably would have beat him. So
that's kind of how it felt. It's like, we really should have. We wanted Ohio State in that game. We gotta make sure that this doesn't happen again.
And it seems like the compromise, because the SEC. I mean, supposedly where the big hangup is that a lot of a couple of the conferences want the 6 best conference champions in there. But like the Big Ten wants it to literally be the conference champ. If the power, he wants all Power Fives to have an automatic berth. But the SEC just wants the top 5 conference champs, regardless of conference affiliations. Of which conference, whoever the champs are. Because that would protect against if a crappy team wins a conference championship from getting in. So I mean that's kind of like where all these hangups are. So it seems like that this is kind of the Big Ten's compromise that. Well, we'll just have our 2 best teams play each other. And let's face it, I mean, it doesn't help anybody in the West. I mean, no. And like literally Ohio State, I mean, I saw this thing the other day that if this was the case this whole time, 8 of the last 9 years, they would have been in the Big Ten championship game. So like, I
believe the only one they would have missed would have been the Iowa Michigan State.
Penn State, Michigan State, that one.
Which is but every other because that was still our second best team in the stretch or something like that. So
which is crazy to think of. But that was it. And like so the rest, the rest of them, besides the year that 2011 and the year that we're ineligible, that that we're in it every other. We'd be in it every other year besides 15.
Well, I mean, that's how close we've been. We've only lost in any of those years that we've lost a conference game, we've never lost more than one, outside of that 2011, the stretch you're talking about, 2012, the post-Meyer or Urban to current era that, we've never lost more than one conference game in a year. So, I mean, it only helps another team in the East.
Yeah,
but exactly. I think it definitely like almost solidifies that Ohio State, it would almost be like Oklahoma, I mean, this was a weird year that Oklahoma didn't make it when they redid all that Big 12 structure, but it almost like Ohio State has to have a bad year not to make the conference title.
Pretty much. And that's like the guarantee. It's like, well, everybody said it only helps 2 teams. It helps Ohio State and helps whoever's been the second
number
place
2 team in the East. Exactly.
I mean, there's been very rare time. I mean, for a lot of these years, the second best team has come out of the East. This year, the second best team would have been coming out of the East. And
I mean, Wisconsin only did it the one time that when they were undefeated, were they in the top 2 teams, right? When they were in that 2017 game against Ohio State, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. All right. So Yeah, we'll be getting a lot more into Harbaugh over the year because now we get to the bloodbath in Columbus is still on, and I don't think that was going to matter regardless. I think there's a beating waiting for them coming into Columbus this year. You know,
Yeah.
Ryan Day, he gets blown off a national championship field, and he doesn't feel obligated that he has to change anything. He gets blown out by his rival, and he decides to blow up the entire defense. So, like,
Yeah, I think um yeah, I mean, just no more speculation about Harbaugh, but that was just, I do think the whole 42-27 crowd, their joy has expiration date on it, and it's at the end of November. And it, I mean, early thoughts, and anything could happen during the season. I mean, hell, this could be a worse iteration of our defense than what we've had the last 2 years. For as far as we know at this point, I don't think it will be. Um, but I think, as of today, I'm very confident that that will be a bludgeoning at the end of the year.
yeah, I agree. And Jim Knowles' defense, as we move into Jim Knowles talking, because we'll start with him.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be some hiccups earlier in the year, but I think it will be a full-oiled machine by the time they get towards the end of the season. And I know it took him 4 years to get everything right at Oklahoma State, but it got better every single year. And he has talent right now that he's never seen at Oklahoma State. And so, like, he gets these guys rolling. This thing could be a few games to where, that, and you got the best offense in the country. So, like, it might get a few games that he really has to get, that it might take him a few games to get going, but there's still better chances than not that they're going to win those few games, getting ready.
Oh, well, I mean, he understands getting paid $2 million a year to come coach Ohio State. You're expecting results right away. And
Yeah.
he has the talent right away, but I mean, still, underrated thing that's happening or is coming in with him are four of his guys. And I think that's it. I mean, it could be more, are coming in either graduate assistant or analyst roles to help get the rest of these, new coaches up to par with what he's trying to do.
5. I know. I think it's officially that they've taken 3 guys from Oklahoma State. And then I think that they took the 2 Duke guys.
2 Duke.
So
okay.
I think,
Yes.
yeah.
Five guys that are now, graduate assistants, analysts that are being paid by Ohio State that are going to help get this defense up to speed. So he knows he doesn't have forever to do this, but he's prepared for the task. And he said it. He said, I know I don't have 4 years. Like, that's not wasted on him. He knows that he has to amp it up, and they got to get results quick.
For a guy that's never probably really had, his job necessarily be challenged before, because he's always been in situations that was going to afford him to give him time to do it. He seems like he's completely he's embracing the role that this is a completely different situation. And I don't have 4 years. And and he talked about a lot of things. He's like, the one thing the couple things Coach Day went, he wants somebody that's going to be accountable to the defense, and he wants somebody who's going to give him answers when he has questions. And so he understands all of that. And I think he's just, listen to him talk the other day. I just think he's the perfect fit for the job. And, it'll be nice for them to really just give a guy, the full, room. This is your defensive team. I'm going to come over here. I'll ask a couple questions, but I don't want to necessarily, I want to be as involved as much as that the head coach needs to be involved. That I just want to make sure that everything's working, but I don't want to be spending a bunch of time over here. It's a lot funner for me to be, devising crazy offenses to deal with,
well, yeah. I mean, I think, people go on about that ridiculous born on third base comment that Jim Harbaugh made about Ryan Day. Ryan Day inherited a ton of talent. I mean, there's no way, around that. But one of the biggest things about that first year was Jeff Haff. That he had someone that knew how to mold that talent, knew what to do, and had a plan for that talent. And I don't think, and I'm not taking shots at Kerry Combs, Matt Barnes, Madison, whomever else was involved, over the course of the last 2 years. But it didn't seem like they really had a plan of, how to attack. Like, this is our structure. This is what we're going to do. And this is how we're going to utilize all this talent that we have on defense. It was just kind of like, everyone coach your groups and, we'll figure it out as we go. And that's that. And it never happened. So I'm just, I think Knowles, like Hafley, can identify this talent, and he's going to know how to be able to fit into his scheme and be able to use that to neutralize the opponent's strength, but also enhance Ohio State's strength at the same time on the defense. So I'm very excited about it. I mean, he's a smart guy. You can tell by listening to him, and he just has a lot of great ideas for the defense. And he even broke down some of his positions, like what's going to be a little bit different, and how he approaches playing safeties, how he approaches playing that fourth lineman. That's kind of that hybrid role of a linebacker, down lineman that can kind of go all over the place. So yeah. It was really, really interesting to listen to. I think he's going to be a great defensive coordinator.
Yeah. I mean, the things I liked just listening to him was, him talking about, I just lost my train of thought. Just how he likes on every single defensive play, not just every series, but every play that, there should be 3 things that he could do out of every, defensive formation that they show the offense. And it's the offense's job to try to figure out which one they're going to go with. And that's kind of like his, pre-snap, post-snaps type thing that, I'm going to show you this defense. I can do this, this, and this out of this said defense. And let's see if you and your offensive coordinator can figure it out. I liked when he talked about, they kind of do those game show things. He'll just out of nowhere, a player's pitcher will show up on the board, and that player has to stand up, and he's going to ask him a question, and he's got 2.5 seconds to answer said question. And if he doesn't answer it, he tells him to sit down because the play's over. And so it's like,
right.
I mean, it's just, and I think that stuff's important, because if you want to, the criticism Ohio State's had over the last several years when they've had bad defenses is it's just too complex, or this thinking too much. But if you want to get to a defense to the type of defense that is a national championship style defense, that you kind of got to, you got to be able to think on your feet, and still do, A to B and, 44 to 6 or whatever, A to B and all that stuff that they were talking before. I mean, it's all got to be boom, 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 boom. And you got to be able to think it through and react to it all at the same time. So and I love, I know it was McAllister that said it today, but he was talking about I did, I think you sent me the soundbite or whatever about they just want it's going to be just completely aggressive, and they're going to, they want the offenses to have to react to what they're doing.
Right. They want to play offense on defense, which, you pair that with Ryan Day. And I know you and I say, you don't have to have this Georgia defense. You just have to have a decent defense that you have a shot to win a national title. If you have this killer defense on top of that offense, watch out. It's going to be, it will just be so hard for teams to stay with them during these games if they're able to if they're able to be that aggressive and just attack teams like that, get the ball back, get more possessions for Ryan Day's offense. And what you just mentioned about being able to, being able to run different things, or 3 formations, or, whatever. I can't word exactly how you did, but what that reminds me of is kind of like Ryan Day's philosophy that I can run the same play out of, 5 different formations. Mm-hmm. And we're always going to keep the defense guessing, see if they think or can guess that this is coming again, just from a different look. So I just feel like they both have very cerebral minds, just on different sides of the ball. And I feel like they're both aggressive as hell. And I love it.
This didn't come necessarily out of the press conference the other day, but I saw, a breakdown from him a few weeks ago, or that, he likes to, he plays in those third and mediums and stuff like that. How many times we yelled, okay, and we're we're couch coaches and stuff like that. How many times have we yelled when we have a cornerback sitting 10 yards off the player and it's 3rd and 5? Like, I can't stand it. Like, move. You're literally giving up an easy slant, like, for a first down. So like he brings his corners up and then he plays his safeties and his linebacker coverages. He plays them very tight at the first down marker. And he's always bringing an extra guy also on a blitz. So it's like, he's going to make the quarterback react fast on stuff like that. And that's why he creates a lot of, 3rd and 3 and outs and getting off the field on 3rd downs. And, his biggest things that he teaches at Oklahoma State was, they love to sack people. They love to get tackles for loss. They love just sound tackling in general, and they get off the field on 3rd down. Add to the fact that you got some legitimate athletes at Ohio State that he's never had. Like, I think he's going to get even, Oklahoma State wasn't necessarily known for turnovers, but I think he's going to get turnovers too now. So now you're going to only add everything there that he's just going to make Ohio State even better at. But then you're going to get turnovers that his guys just didn't get. They just, because they were looking to, make the plays and get the guys down. But you're going to get athletes now that are just going to be in the right position. And yeah, they could take that guy down, but they're also going to just jump the pass. I mean, we saw that this year that, early in the season when teams were kind of confused about Ohio State's changes. I mean, 4 games in a row where they had a defensive touchdown. I mean, I think that's stuff like that's going to happen frequently with them just because they got the athletes to be doing it. And, it's just going to be very fun to watch. Just a very aggressive defense again. And I like aggressive defenses because to me, especially if you have an offense like Ohio State, there's not many teams in the country that are going to be able to play shootout ball with you to begin with. So if you have an aggressive defense that maybe gives up a touchdown or two during a course of a game just because they were over aggressive, whatever. I'd rather be an aggressive defense than be a, passive defense. And, because take the ball away, get through in that 3 and outs and all that stuff, because that will happen a lot more often with an aggressive defense. And if you give up a quick, long touchdown, whatever.
You get the ball back. You're a great offense literally gets the ball back.
Top 5 offense, who was the best offense in the country last year. And they're no doubt to think that they can't achieve that again this year. So like,
yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just, I'm looking forward to it. And then, the other defensive coaches, they had very impressive interviews as well.
So I was surprised about how well I ended up liking Walton's press conference. I knew I was going to like Eliano's press conference. He just seemed like he was just everything I've heard about him, it was very impressive. And it's not saying Walton was impressive. Everything I've heard about him, it was impressive too. I just didn't know how, it's just getting back into college football. You have that pro mindset for so long, but
he's just a Southern gentleman, Mike.
But he had a lot of energy. I can already see where he's got manners, he's got energy, he loves Ohio State. I already can see how, as long as he embraces recruiting, he's going to do phenomenal in recruiting. So like he's going to be going in there and win, win over parents. And, I know this is going to come off sounding a little stereotypical, and, I apologize for that, but every Southern kid that they try to recruit, he better be on the recruiting team because I don't know. It's just like, I remember a couple moms saying when Brian Kelly was, hired a couple weeks ago that they just don't see him being able to come into their living rooms and impress them. I see Tim going into, Southern living rooms and impressing, those moms down there that, and who knows, you might be able, just because of having a personality like that is, fits in with, the customs more down there, you might be able to win a couple of those kids. And how how some of those recruiting battles can be. And, so, I mean, who knows?
Definitely difficult to pull kids out of SEC country. 1 minute here, excuse me. And sorry about that.
We got a dog alert.
That's all right. I got him back in pretty quickly, so he's good. But no, it's hard to pull those kids out of SEC country. So you're absolutely right. He needs to be in on those recruiting trips. But his character his experience and his passion for Ohio State, that's going to take him so far in recruiting. As long as, like you said, as long as he embraces it, and he's going to be able to teach these kids, anything. And he has that going for him, that he can teach them anything. Of course, he doesn't have, the pro success that like a Brian Hartline did, but he's still, this is his alma mater, and he coached in the NFL for a very long time.
Yeah. His pro success is, him being a coach there in the NFL for as long as he has been. And it's successful too. I mean, he's been a successful guy. You've heard a lot of good things from guys like Jalen Ramsey about him. And so, yeah, I think that him being an NFL guy, he's going to be able to come and be like, first of all, Ohio State puts a lot of corners into the NFL. Second of all, I know how to teach those guys. And, and I said this a couple of weeks ago. I thought he was kind of the guy that brought in. And when you want to run a complex defense as his complex coverages, you better have a guy that maybe has some experiences. And in the NFL, you run a lot of different coverages. I mean, it's not college football where, you can get away with maybe running, unless you're the upper echelon teams that do run a little bit more complex defenses. Yeah, you can get away with, on your run of the mill, middle of the road team that, yeah, I can run more of a basic defense with basic coverages, and most teams I'll be fine against.
Yeah.
And, here he's got to have players that he can throw into way different formations, and they got to know multiple different plays. I mean, Knowles runs every type of coverage. I mean,
Sure.
in his defense. So those guys have to know that. And so I think having an NFL minded coach that understands that is going to be perfect for those corners. And honestly will be perfect for the safeties and coverage too. And I think, Eliano, excuse me, talked about his thing. There's going to be plenty of times where they're by themselves, but there's going to be plenty of times where they're together. And so you got to be thinking on similar wavelengths. And he said in his press conference that they actually coached together in a clinic a few years ago, and they actually got along very well. They had pretty good chemistry with each other. So it seems like that there are two personalities that will actually fit really well with each other. So I was pretty pleased listening to both of them talk.
Yeah, just exciting stuff. Very happy with that.
Yeah. Now on Eliano, the one thing I did like, and I not just, he kind of alluded in the press conference, but I kind of heard it from a couple other places too. I mean, he's literally had kids tell him, be like, well, if you work for, I like you, coach. If you work for a better school and stuff like that, you might have a better shot. And like, well, now he kept on talking. I'm going to have that block O on my chest now. And so he's like, I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to get me into places where I've not been able to get into before. And I love building relationships. And, I know everybody that, has signed over the last several years love Kerry Combs. And, he was that guy. And it just seems like that this is a comparable replacement for him. And if he can get out of them playing like what Kerry was able to get out of our guys over the last several years playing that he's been here, especially, when he was here the first go around, when they really popped out a lot of kids into the NFL, I love where that's going. And so if he matches the coaching ability with, I think, what he is in recruiting and relationship building and stuff, I mean, he's just a home run hire. And he's a guy, because of his age and stuff, in a couple years, if, Knowles decides to move on, who knows, whatever happens, if you could get him to stay, even though I do think he has a potential head coaching, chops, that somebody's going to give him a shot to be a head coach somewhere. That, I mean, he's a guy that, you could see becoming a defensive coordinator. Sure. And, turning a whole defense over too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was very impressed with his press conference. Just stuff you were talking about. I mean, I know it wasn't as in your face, but he had that energy that Kerry Combs has, that like he had just that positive vibe about him. I mean, of course it wasn't like, turned up to 11, like what Kerry is, but he's still, I feel like, he can go in there, he can win these kids just like Kerry did, in his own way with his own recruiting pitches. But that, like you said, Blocko gets him into those houses, gets him into the, with those 5-star kids that the the Bearcat, the little claw, that didn't get him into before, but he'll be there now.
Yeah, and he can say that, hey, not only can he go there, but like at a school like Cincinnati, I coached the Thorpe Award winner.
At Cincinnati, I got a kid to win the Thorpe Award. Like,
Yeah.
he could use that as a recruiting pitch.
Yeah.
And now I'm at Ohio State with all the resources available.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing, and I did like this, maybe personality wise different than Kerry, but Kerry was always a pretty straight and honest shooter with the press and stuff like that, and they loved him. I mean, you ever listen to any? I mean, I was listening to Letterman Row the other day, and Austin Ward brought up the fact that after he had almost a 30-minute press conference, and then I guess he stuck around for like another 30 minutes, like taking just general questions, with all the reporters and stuff like that weren't on there. And like somebody asked him, like, why are you doing that? He's like, hey, building relationships with you guys is just as important as so. I think that's a good start for him. That I mean, it's good. I mean, in a lot of ways, especially in certain circles in the Ohio State media, it's very hard to get them to hate you because they, I mean, they're Homer press. I mean, but that's what you get when you are in a lot of these in these programs and stuff like that. And it's okay. I don't need everybody to be, tell me everything, tell me all the things that are wrong with Ohio State. And then, when good things happen, try to be all nonchalant about it. I like Homer press every now and then. So, that's a good sign for him that, a lot of seems like that impressed a lot of them that he stuck around and talked to him. So I think he's going to be, I mean, I was really excited. Like I kind of felt like I was going to feel that way with him, but I was just really excited how I ended up feeling about Walton after it too, because like I didn't know what to expect out of that. I didn't know if he was going to try to, poo-poo stuff and be like, well, I've coached at the highest level now for how many years, and I'm going to do this without any problem, because there is a big disconnect between NFL coaches and college coaches. There's a lot more on the plate of college coaches than there are the NFL coaches. Not saying the NFL coaches' jobs are easy by any stretch. It's just a different type of hard. And, so he didn't do that. He was really energetic. He sounded like he was thrilled to be back, and he's ready to seem like hit recruiting.
Yeah, I think a lot of times with NFL coaches, when they come down to the college level, is they forget that they have to develop kids. They have to teach them that they're used to kind of getting a finished product that's just, maybe hasn't been exposed to the grind of an NFL season or something like that. But someone that's like, okay, all your techniques, all your fundamentals, I'm going to teach you the system, and this is what you need to do in that. And so a lot of them, I think that honestly, because Bill Davis is still coaching in the NFL, I'm pretty sure. I think that was his problem when he got our linebackers, was he got a bunch of young linebackers or guys that, hadn't played a lot. And he came in and was like, okay, well, you got to do this, this, and this. And those guys didn't know like what they were doing as linebackers at first before they even got to the point that
to be able to do this, this, and this.
Right. That they could do this system. Like he forgot that you have to be, a teacher of the position as well as a teacher of the system. So, and I don't think we're going to run into that at all, though.
And actually,
Walton 100% seems like he gets it.
Yeah, and actually, to bring that up, he actually mentioned that a couple of times that part of this is developing these kids, and so he's embracing that. So, just very, very impressed with him.
I mean, because face it, when a high school kid coming into college, that is just the best athlete on the field a lot of the time. I mean, sure, they have a lot of talent. There's a lot of things that these guys already know, especially as, sports are becoming more specialized over the years, that you're only doing one thing and you're starting to learn, the more of the ins and outs of your positions and about the sport. But a lot of these guys are just, freak athletes that can do crazy things, but they need to be taught how to play the position.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, there's a transition to all three levels of football. I mean, when you're in high school, there is very few people that Trevion Henderson goes up to that's in anywhere near his caliber as a player. So, he doesn't have to learn all the finer points of football. Well, in college, you have to learn the finer points because, yes, there's going to be games where you're literally the best athlete, but you're going to get into some upper echelon teams. And so, yeah, you got to learn all the finer points. And then when you take those finer points, when you get up to the next level, you realize you ain't the fastest guy on the field anymore. That lineman can actually run you down. And like, so you have to learn how to do the grinding part and the aspects that, to be the crispest athlete in the world, that, you're not going to get, you're not going to be Chris Olave running 10 yards down the field with nobody anywhere around him. That, there's going to be a corner right on your butt too. So you better know how to catch.
Right. And like you said, you're not going to have 10 yards. So you got to learn how to get 1 yard of separation with someone that can run with you. And that's like, that's the stuff like in the NFL, like when it comes to system and like the finer points, like, when that ball snaps, you got to diagnose how to be the quickest person to where you got to be. But as far as, you still got to develop kids to know their positions in college, whereas the NFL, it's more so that they're a finished product when you finally get them. Hopefully they are when they're at that point.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Final coach we're going to talk about tonight is the new offensive line coach, Mr. Frye. He seemed
very
pretty
impressive
stoked.
Also. And he was actually probably my favorite interview, to be honest with you.
He was pretty stoked about being back in this part of the country. I mean, he's from, I believe, Indianapolis, right? Or Indiana.
He played ball at Indiana, I'm pretty sure. So he's around here.
I know his wife's family's from Mentor. I heard that. So, he has definite ties to the area. And again, just somebody that knew, like, it's just funny. They all know that they, like, Eliano mentioned this, Knowles mentioned this, that Frye mentioned this, that, this is different than the last position I was at. So there's a lot of things that, are expected to be that we're not necessarily expected to be before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I
like it because it just sounds like these guys know the opportunity that's given to them and they kind of know the responsibility that comes with it. But Frye, he had just like, it kind of almost felt like, a Halfley interview with him. Like he was real, down to earth and, he simplified things. He said football is blocking and tackling. If you block the guys and they can't tackle you, you're going to score one way or another. If they tackle you, he's like, that's not going to be fun and you're not going to score points. So, he totally, like, he gets it. He said, he joked about this part of the country. He's going to get bigger guys than what he would get over in Southern California. I really liked what he said about, I want, like, my daughter to be able to be up in the stands and know exactly where the ball's going and everyone know where the ball's going. And it doesn't even matter because we're that good at it. We're going to convert on a 3rd and 2.
I know a couple of the media members mentioned this on some of their podcasts this week, but the thing I heard when I saw that, it was the same thing everybody else mentioned too. It's like, oh, JT Barrett's back on. Like everybody knew where JT Barrett was going to the ball, and he always got you say what you want about JT, but they always got those first downs. So
yeah, he wasn't short.
Wow,
JT got it.
But no, I was very impressed with listening to him. That I liked when he said, you think there's too many chefs, that you have an offensive minded head coach. You now have a run game coordinator, a pass game coordinator, an offensive coordinator. He's like, no, it's just ball. We're all talking to each other. He's like, I was in meetings with the guys, and you know what? They were asking my opinion on stuff. And like, he's like, we're just playing football here. And, it's going to be a process where we all throw our ideas out there. And I think with them is one thing. When Ryan Day was an offensive coordinator in 2018 and his 2 years as head coach, or 3 years now head coach, I thought that, for 2.5 of those years, they didn't have a running identity. They obviously had a running identity in 19, and then they had a running identity in a portion of 20.
Yeah.
When they finally got really sermon going into the year. Before that, I didn't think they had a running identity, and I didn't see it in 2018, and I didn't see it last year. And that's with, one of the best running backs in the country, and Mayan Williams, who arguably could be very easily starting for, 95% of all teams in the country right now. Like, you know, that they should have been a much better run team than they were. And a lot of that falls on, you know, a lot of that fell on the offensive line and their inability to do legitimate run blocking. But some of it also fell on calling bad types of running plays at different parts of the game and not having a running identity. You could still be the best passing team in the world and still have a legitimate running identity. And I think they're going to develop a blocking scheme. And now with Offer being a running game coordinator, they're actually going to have a running scheme. And I think that they're going to really look into this and they're going to find plays that work better for Trey and for Mayan and, you know, and CJ too. And I think instead of you know, what we saw towards the end of the year, I think some of those read options are going to be more RPOs. And, you know, that works in this offense. And if you get maybe some more of that pistol style running where, you know, Henderson and Mayan can get downhill fast and, you know, then make moves and stuff when they get out into the open, you know, that's going to be bad. I mean, Trey Henderson, a couple things he needs to clean up, but if he gets downhill, that guy, he hits a hole fast, man. And he could be gone as soon as he hits the hole. Like, you know, that's how fast he is. And, you know,
and he's only going to get faster too. I mean, because Maradi's weight training program, I mean, he can bulk up, he can put on another 10 pounds and he will become more explosive because of, you know, how he's going to be training. I mean, it'll be like JK that, you know, he actually got bigger. Zeke actually got bigger, but they got faster as their careers went on.
Yeah. I love the dangerousness that their passing game is, but if they can get with a, you know, I think he's going to hands down just be better than Stud in recruiting. But can he match Stud's ability to, you know, develop a line? And, you know, there's very few times that Stud was behind the 8 ball on that. I mean, you can argue different things this year. I don't know if his back injuries really affected some of that stuff. I think part of it is we look back at hindsight being 2020 that, you know, it was probably pretty dumb to have 4 tackles out there, you know, that, you know, your guards are the best run blockers on the team normally. So did that affect it? It seems like, yes, it did, but it also probably affected it that maybe Stud wasn't as completely healthy. And so a lot of that stuff probably you know, fell to that, but he was always a pretty good developer of offensive linemen. So if Frye can match him in development, I think he's gonna really get some of the kids that Stud have missed out on over the last couple of years in recruiting. And if they start adding to the point in their offensive line recruiting, maybe like how they're recruiting some other positions. I mean, my God, I don't know if if they could start getting guys like the level Bama and Georgia's been getting over the last several years. And, you know, I think Ohio State's been a step below that. I still think that they've gotten really good offensive linemen, but, you know, getting those next level linemen, if they could get a couple of those kids, I'm not saying that they have to get 5 of them every year. If you get some good local talent and then you add in 2 of those kids on top of it, you know, 1 or 2 of that, that's a damn good offensive line every year you're recruiting.
Right.
And then
you're always going to have a good offensive line then moving forward, as long as you keep people healthy and you keep doing what you do.
Yeah. And then you develop them to be the players that they're, you know, could be, you know, what their talent says from being in high school players that, you know, they could turn into these 2 players if they were developed. Then, yeah, going forward, I'm pretty stoked to see what he can do. And I think from what I listened to him the other day, he seems pretty intelligent. I think he's going to help develop a legitimate running game to a scheme. If they pass block and they develop as well as they did under Stud, well, damn, like that could end up being the final scary piece of that offense.
Yeah.
And then,
and what I'm going to say, not to cut you off, but it just kind of, to me, it's not like he is like embracing the fact that, you know, his running game might not be top dog for Ohio State, but it does kind of sound like, you know, he kind of gets it. He's like, you know, it doesn't have to necessarily only be running, but you got to be effective when you run the ball. He's like, you know, you got to be good when that's what you do. But I think he knows that, you know, Ohio State just with the talent they have from Hartline and Day bringing in for the passing game, you're still going to be passing on people. But when you do run the ball, you got to be effective at it. You can't get stopped. You're Ohio freaking State. You can't get stopped on 3rd and 1s.
Yeah. And that was the hard part of this year. That was like, you know, the hardest part of this year was what Michigan did to us, you know, that was just running the ball over that. So that's like just heartbreaking to see, you know, your defense do that. I think that's going to get fixed up pretty quickly. But the other disheartening thing this year is that they just got stopped way too easily on, you know, short downs. And it's like, man, that used to be, you know, I didn't care whether it's JT Barrett, whether it was Ezekiel Elliott, whether it was Carlos Hyde, Braxton Miller, whether it was Maurice Claret or Beanie,
like J.K. Dobbins,
Boone Heron. Even Boone Heron, you know, who was not a big dude, you know, he always got those tough yards on, you know, 3rd and shorts and stuff like that. Like, and it just seems like we've had so many guys over the years that it's just like these last couple of years, it's just been like we've had just 19 was unbelievable. When they got Sermon going in 20, that was unbelievable. But like 18, and last year, even though there was times last year that you saw what it could be.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I mean, just 18. And I mean that, you know, I think it's a conversation for another day, maybe. And we can see as this year goes on. I mean, it feels like a lot of, you know, what Stud does and what, you know, Day tried to do that. It's almost like you kind of needed a quarterback that could run a little bit for that type of blocking to be effective. So I'm really looking forward to what this guy, Justin Frye, can bring, because I think he's going to just rejuvenate that, you know, the run game and the offensive line standpoint. And you got Trey Henderson, you got, you know, Evan Pryor, you got Mayan Williams, you still got Marcus Crowley out there, you know, for the time being. I know he's recovering again. You got Dallin Hayden coming in. Of course, you know, Alfred's never stopping. So he's going to, as long as he's there, he's going to bring in quality kids. So I think, you know, your run game's just going to be like shot out of a cannon this year. I mean, I think you're going to see again, you know, 17 and 19, and you're going to see it again this year. And
they don't necessarily have to be Georgia-esque running the ball, because Georgia runs the ball too much. But if he could get a Georgia-style running attack with, you know, the fact that he has the best passing game in the country, you know, then they fix the defense. Like, I mean, I'm trying to take my scarlet glasses off, but like they could be, I mean, this could be a special year. I mean, if Jim Knowles can get that defense up to a top, it doesn't even have to be a top 5 defense right now. I think eventually he will get that to a top 5 defense. But like, if he can get it this year into a top 15 defense, possibly a top 20 defense with that offense, like a top 20 Ohio State defense with that offense doesn't lose to Michigan.
Well,
and they might beat, you know, they probably are playing in the national championship game, because I think whoever they get in the first round, they're going to knock off. And, you know, I think they would have beat Alabama. They had the abilities to beat Alabama or Georgia, because they would have challenged Georgia's defense a lot better than anybody else in the country could have. You know, Alabama's issues this year, and we saw it a couple times when Jama was not in the offense, they weren't as impressive as they were when he was in the offense. Sure. And, you know, I think CJ Stroud, regardless of which receivers were in the offense, we saw that in the Rose Bowl, that, you know, I can play with any of these guys. So, you know, if one of them gets hurt, I'll move somebody else in this position and we'll be fine. We'll get moving here into just quickly into signing day today. I did want to also, I think we'll save it till next week. I kind of wanted to talk about just our reactions of kind of what, you know, what we think about what they did, you know, going into this off season. Like, it seemed like the proverbial gun was to his head, and it seemed like he answered very hard. You know, he was against the wall after the Michigan loss, but I think that could probably take us down a 20 to 30 minute conversation hole. So, because, you know, I'm pretty impressed of what he did. So I think we'll kind of save that for next week. That we'll get into that. So just quickly on signing day, again, like I said, there wasn't going to be a lot of fireworks today unless we got Christian Miller. We didn't, but Abor kept with his commitment. He signed.
I mean, that's a big one because when those Texas schools out there, they're getting everybody. Of course, I'm not sure what kind of A&M, what kind of interest they would have with him anymore, considering they just recruited like five-star defensive linemen. So
yeah, that line was freaky. But
oh my gosh,
Larry Johnson had a hell of a line the last couple of years, recruits too. So let's get these guys developed now, and that's half the battle too. Recruiting's the fun part, but I would say that what Larry Johnson's done over the last decade, and what they've had Myles Garrett and A&M, but what they've done down there, they've gotten some really, really great linemen. I think we've done a better job developing ours, and so
yeah, but you definitely got a stud of a defensive line coach down there.
Oh yeah, and definitely.
I mean, I don't know if LJ retires anytime soon. I don't know what you would have to do. I mean, I just think it probably is impossible because he's a Pennsylvania guy. Like he coached under LJ, so it definitely wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to get him closer to home. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to move back to the cold after being in Texas, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Ohio State showed this year that Gene Smith's willing to open checkbooks up. I think he got to a point that he realized that I think Gene Smith has been caught. He's been kind of caught in between that. Are we a Big Ten school? Are we just a better? Are we a more of an SEC style school? And I think he's tried to play both of those things at different times. And I think he realized after this year, I think Brian Day got to him and I need analysts, I need quality control coaches, and I need a new defensive staff. And I think Gene Smith said, yeah, you need all of those because if you get fired for this one, I'm probably getting fired for this one too. So
right. And that's the thing. And I think you are 100% on the ball with what you just said. I think Ryan Day went up to Gene Smith, or maybe Gene decided himself and it was time to jump off the fence. You're not, you can still represent the Big Ten, but you can be a football powerhouse in the Big Ten. And it's not like they aren't. I mean, I shouldn't act like Ohio State isn't comparable, isn't like an SEC school already, but sometimes you just got to dive right in. And you can't play both. You can't be on both sides.
Yeah, and Gene's been tough when he's needed to been tough over the last couple of years. So, but there's just been those times where he's gotten a little caught in between there. And I definitely think that he realized college football was changing. I think that's why they did that NIL edge type thing where I heard somebody talking about this week on one of the podcasts, the Buckeye podcast, that we might let everybody do what they're going to do. We might let A&M and Texas do. Let them throw their necks out there and let's see what the NCAA is willing to accept. And now Ohio State's like, okay, we see the field now. Yeah. We got Columbus behind us. We got a powerhouse behind us. We got a brand behind us, and let's create a little thing within our athletic department that's going to go out and help these guys now. And we'll now that we know what the game is, we'll go play the game. And so I kind of think that's what they're doing. So, but not to get off topic, we were talking about signing day. Hinzman, I was very excited. I talked about, a couple weeks ago that I really would love to see us start challenging teams like Wisconsin and Iowa up here for some of their offensive linemen, maybe when the state of Ohio is a little bit down. And, you can still go after, big time recruits around the country. I think Frye will do a good job with that. But, there's some big time recruits, offensive line recruits in this region of the country. So, there's no reason why Ohio State shouldn't be mixing it up with Iowa and Wisconsin if there's somebody up here that they really want, and go get them.
Yeah. My only disappointment with that though, is I'm looking at this kid's measurable 6'4", 280. I mean, I thought linemen that were on Wisconsin's radar, I thought they were mountains of men.
He's definitely a guard.
But I've seen their lines before. I mean, they're like 6'6", 310 all the way across. We got their midget there.
Yeah. Well,
the kid, I mean, he's done great. It sounds like he does he's a very, obviously a great player. I think he comes from a wing T or triple option offense. So there's definitely, he's a run heavy guard, but there's a lot he probably still has to learn as far as passing, pass blocking, excuse me. And yeah, because I think actually now that I remember the story, the center at the All-American, the All-Star game, I came down with COVID, I think, or got injured. So he had to go into like a shotgun as a center. And it's something that he had never done before because his offense that he's from is, wing T or triple option under center type offense. So definitely, he has to get up to speed with that stuff.
Yeah, now take it for somebody that in high school that was on a team that ran the wing T that there's not a lot of shotgun that goes on in the wing T.
Yeah. And then my team, we ran a shotgun offense just 2 years later. So I mean, that was just that was a culture shift at Stowe High School.
Yeah. But yeah, no.
Now we are getting off topic.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up here. We don't need to go into high school stories. But no, very excited that they ended up holding on to Abor. I didn't want Texas to try to come in with money or A&M to be like, man, we could take one more defensive lineman.
Just take one more. Why not? Actually, real quick though, I just want to talk about his press conference real quick. Just a couple points. He is over on scholarships right now. He said he'd rather be over than under 85, which ain't that the truth at this point. The one that really interested me, he said Sevyn Banks is moving on, which I don't think is like crazy to think about, but it's just kind of like, I don't know because he said he has to talk with the family the next day. Was that like, did they make that decision that Sevyn was moving on? Like, had Sevyn not reported yet? And Dave was like, I don't know. You made up your mind. I'm not sure. I always liked Sevyn Banks. I know you did too. I think he got a lot of criticism for no reason. I mean, he was in on a lot of plays. He's a big, long cornerback. I think he'll be fine. If he does enter the transfer portal, I would be interested to see where he goes because coming from Ohio State and being a starter, I don't see him going to a small school.
I wonder if he's going to go transfer. I mean, I know he can't go NFL, but I'm wondering if is he going to go transfer portal or is he going to try one of these other football leagues? I mean, we have a new spring freaking football league coming up that, it seems like every other year we get a new spring football league.
Well, you don't think he'd be drafted?
Well, he can't declare because he's past he would have already had to have his paperwork in.
He's not an underclassman though.
Oh,
he came in 2018. He was Olave's age.
Oh,
he might.
So, is he allowed still, or do you still have to turn in paperwork?
I don't know.
I don't know how any of that goes. I'm repeating somebody I heard this week saying that he was ineligible to go because he's passed. So they could be wrong, and if that's the case, then I'm wrong.
I mean,
so
I'll trust someone else, but he wasn't. I mean, I know he's 4 years removed from high school, so he
probably is allowed that. I don't know.
I don't know if he graduated or not. I would assume he did just because of the coursework those guys take that they usually, are well ahead of the game when it comes to graduating, but he might not have.
Well, regardless, I think I wonder if maybe he will be going to the NFL. I wonder. So, I mean, best of luck to him. I think between Burke and Brown, and then the couple kids that they brought in when they brought Burke in, and we've gotten some. Kerry Combs did get the room back filled up. Yeah. So we got some good corners, I think, in there.
Is that Oklahoma State corner still out there in the portal, or did he finally go? Did he go somewhere?
That I don't know. We've
been gone for a couple of weeks. We've had some things going on, so that's
yeah, I'm not sure if that anything. So on that one,
I'll look into that. But
I think we'll call it a night on that. It was a good podcast, but I'm pretty stoked what we heard in the press conferences. I'm really ready to see. And like I said, I think next week I do want to kind of just break down just kind of our thoughts about Day, because I mean he let a lot of things fly this. And he even said in the press conference that he really had to make some that these were big sweeping changes he made on the defense. He turned it all over to Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles was in on the Eliano and Tim Walton interviews and stuff like that. So outside of LJ, who was saying that nothing was forced onto Jim Knowles, and he got his input in on those two guys too, and
Yeah.
it seems like he's got the staff that he wants.
Yeah, he needed a head coach of the defense. He said that, and I think he's really happy with where he is, and I am too. So, just the 3 points that we brought up tonight, I'm happy about this recruiting class. I think it was a very solid, for as much criticism as it took at different times when, people decommitted and people forgot that Quinn Ewers reclassified. So that kind of gave us a big loss because the number one player in the country was no longer there. He was in the class before it. So class ended up very solid. New defensive coaches and Justin Frye. Just ecstatic about them also. I think they're really going to help change the culture. Build on the culture of the team, not change it, but build on the culture, implement what they like to do, be very successful. And I think Ohio State's it's going to be a refreshing and welcome change to some of the things that we have been seeing over the last couple of years. And then finally, I cannot be happier that Jim Harbaugh is going back to Michigan. That is the best news of the freaking day.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the one last thing on the defense things that I meant to mention earlier. I did when you were talking about Day's press conference here. I absolutely loved when Ryan Day said, that this defense will probably look more like Oklahoma State's defense. That's, to me, that is your head coach that said that he's hiring a head coach of the defense, and he's meaning that this is the head coach of the defense. That, this isn't like, hey, I want you to do what we did here. Yep. I really like this high safety look that we ran. You're a better defensive coordinator. There's obviously going to be some high safety stuff in Jim Knowles' defense because he runs some of that stuff every now and then. But this is going to be his defense where he runs in and out of different coverages. He runs different types of blitzes, and he has different types of pressures he brings from his defense alignment. So, it'll be a welcome change, and I think it's a good change. It's good to let a guy that has experience doing it make those changes. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
And let's face the facts. Ryan Day took blame for making Kerry Combs do what Jeff Hafley did without actually taking the blame for it. So he said that Jeff came in, that was the defense that he liked to run. But, he said that moving forward, his defensive coordinator is running their defense, that he's going to let Knowles do his thing. He's not making Knowles be Pete Carroll, or Jeff Hafley. He's going to let him do his thing, and they're going to be great because of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's call it an evening.
All right, well, everyone, thank you for stopping out tonight at the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.